You know, ladies and gentlemen, you start off a lot of speeches, saying that it is an honor to be present for whatever occasion you're at. Of course it is. But to call this an honor would fail to capture today's significance. I will tell you right now, this is a moment of privilege and responsibility that we will remember and relish until we draw our last breath. Today carries the significance of perpetuity. For we are here to bring our son home. Finally home. After a century, when he volunteered to leave his home, leave his family, leave his relative comfort to bear arms for king and country, fighting for the dominion of Newfoundland and the British Commonwealth. He fell in conditions that few of us could ever comprehend. He fell in such chaos and carnage that his family was left with no body to mourn. The words that they were told, missing, presumed dead, those words would have echoed throughout communities in Newfoundland and Labrador like the crack of a rifle. Everything that he was, everything that he was going to be, everything gone in an instant. We were a people accustomed to loss of life. A century ago, every boat that was leaving port and every man going into the woods had no guarantee of safe return. Death on the sea, death in the woods wasn't unfamiliar to us. But it wasn't commonplace either. Not so many, and not at once. The sheer number of Newfoundland deaths at places like Gallipoli, and Montchet-le-Preux, at Beaumont-Hamel, it stuck our nation in the gut. It was a slaughter with the frequency and volume that could only be achieved with war at a new and industrial state. We've spent the last few days together visiting our dead. We stood along the trail of the Caribou and thought on the men who fought and fell a world away from home. We found quiet moments to think of their sacrifice, what it meant to their families, what it meant to our country, what it means to us today. And today our world looks much like his. We may be better connected, but we remain mired in conflicts that have no certain outcome and carry the risk of expansion in scope and severity. We lay claim to one of the most peaceful periods in human existence, forgetting that our peace can easily be shattered by indifference. He reminds us that our indifference may carry an incalculable cost. Our indifference, our collective comfort, our self-assurance in the certainty of peace may well lead to terrible and inescapable choices. But his sacrifice, his repatriation, and his tomb are not for the glorification of war, but for the condemnation of it. To condemn the needless bloodshed, to condemn the death and displacement of civilians, and to condemn the failure of governments, of dictators, to seek and nurture a lasting peace. We bring him home to remind ourselves of the cost of sending others away. We bring him home to remind ourselves of the value of maintaining the peace. And we bring him home to remind ourselves that our values must be defended. He was a volunteer. He was a volunteer. He heard the call to defend his country and he answered it. He fought alongside men forged by common cause. They did not shirk their responsibility. They did not fear their duty. They did not back down from the challenge before them. They rose. They fought. They fell. They persevered. They knew that their strength came from a shared sense of purpose, a shared love of freedom, and a shared belief that theirs was a way of life worth defending, even at the cost of their very own. This man, representing all who fell, this man will return to gather us together as a province, as a country, on July 1st and on November 11th in reverence and reflection. He will return to teach us about the destructiveness, the waste, the terrible calculus of conflict, but also the importance of duty, of responsibility, of sacrifice, of commitment to something greater than oneself. He will return to embody those words and those deeds, and he will set an example for generations of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and Canadians. He is unknown, but he is all of us. All of us. All that we were, all that we can be. Our son. He's our son. It's time for him to come home now. It is time for him to come home. Merci beaucoup.